Origin continent, Huyang City. Within the quiet room of the city lord's mansion, Luo Feng's consciousness had completely returned to his physical body, and the original, chaotic space within his body had long since transformed into a more expansive and tough space. God Kings would usually open up a universe in the middle of this space. This was because the laws of the universe were the Tao of their own understanding. This was also a kind of cultivation. Rumble, like a heavenly river swirling, the endless raging energy originating from the mysterious place was transformed into divine power, constantly pouring into Luo Feng's internal space, all of which had been transformed into an endless ocean. And the mysterious land is still pouring. Earth time in just 3 months, the miniature universe in the hometown area was able to grow to the size of the primordial universe. One could see the ferocity of the energy infusion, and now these energies were still supplying the formation of Luo Feng's divine body. Divine body transformation. Luo Feng took the initiative to guide it, and the endless divine energy quickly formed a new divine body. I'm afraid the divine body will be huge this time, and I'm afraid I'll have a hard time concealing all my aura on my own. Luo Feng's mind moved, and immediately a clone far away from Chu Capital carried the Star Tower and quietly left Chu Capital. In just a few breaths of time, he carried the Star Tower to Huyang City. Within the quiet room, a Star Tower was there while Luo Feng had already entered the tower. In one of the layers of space within the Star Tower, Luo Feng no longer had any restraint. Maximum speed condensed his godly body. The endless ocean of godly energy in his own internal space continued to lower its water level at a speed visible to the naked eye, and it didn't take long for it to completely dry up. Of course, the endless energy of the mysterious land was converted into divine power and still sent in a steady stream. As much as it was sent, Luo Feng transformed it all into his divine body. 10 trillion kilometers, 11 trillion kilometers. Luo Feng felt the rapid growth of his divine body. Only 3 days had passed in the time of Origin continent, and Luo Feng's perfect divine body had already grown to its limit. The energy that had been poured in recklessly from the mysterious land was also discontinued. The gift of the supreme rules, the energy pouring in recklessly, and just this one chance to become a god king. My divine body. Luo Feng felt himself. An endlessly majestic divine body, sitting cross-legged within the Star Tower space, which was still able to expand large enough to accommodate Luo Feng's full display of his divine body. In the Origin continent's environment, the height of my divine body is 180 trillion kilometers, which is already higher than the sky. Luo Feng understood this. The distance between heaven and earth in the Origin continent was because some places were basins and some were high mountains. The distance between heaven and earth was slightly different, but it was generally about 100 trillion kilometers. So, even if a chaos realm with an infinite divine body cultivated their physical body, it would be hard to be on par with heaven and earth. But God Kings of the infinite divine body were different. God Kings of the infinite divine body generally have a divine body height of 36 trillion kilometers. Even if they display the normal height of their divine body, walking on the earth is a relatively easy matter. Even with a shake, they can be as high as heaven and earth. Luo Feng understood this. It was normal for an ancient god king to be at the same height as heaven and earth. But with my normal divine body, I can't even stand straight on the Origin continent, even if I sit cross-legged. I guess the top of my head is almost touching the stars. Luo Feng thought. The Star Tower is awesome. Just one layer of space inside expands to be taller than my body and still feels relaxed. Luo Feng was well aware that many cave-type secret treasures had a lot of space, but the ones with such a large space were still of immense value. Luo Feng had realized the extraordinary nature of the Star Tower long ago. It was just that for the time being, he couldn't comprehend it. God King level perfect divine body. This is the final form. In the future, want your physical body to be stronger? A stronger soul? You have to rely on your own cultivation. Luo Feng felt his majestic foundation. Divine body foundation. Divine power reserves far surpassed that of an ordinary God King. The divine power quality aspect was also stronger. Soul foundation after becoming a God King. The miniature universe like primordial universe, and the God King perfect divine body made Luo Feng's soul too much stronger as well. God Kings who weren't practicing the soul path and wanted their souls to be strong either relied on their physical bodies to nourish their souls, which was less efficient. Either one relies on some rare treasures to nourish the soul, which is even more priceless. Many chaos realms, after realizing the branches of the great Tao, would rather reincarnate first to repair their flaws and cultivate an infinite divine body before becoming a God King. Luo Feng secretly lamented, roots are indeed important. World life form, transform. Luo Feng started transforming his perfect divine body towards a world life form, with a thought. The perfect divine body was ultimately composed of divine power. In terms of combat prowess, it was still inferior to the world life form. The world life form, as a special inheritance, The introduction was invincible first-level God Kings. The upper limit was even higher. Rumble with the experience of the last transformation, Luo Feng was much faster this time. A large amount of divine power continued to transform. This time, it's much easier for me to control world life forms. Luo Feng felt the difference. Just broke through to God King. Willpower didn't improve much, but the soul was too huge. But the soul is like an army, a 10,000-man army, and a million-man army. Although they are all commanded by the same general, the fighting power is very different. The soul is huge, and it can also harness a much larger physical body. Perfect divine power, constantly transformed into a more lasted for a full 5 days. Strong world life forms. 2 majestic physical bodies sat cross-legged within the star tower. A black-robed perfect divine body and a silver-robed world life form. Consuming half of the divine power reserves of the perfect divine body, it's almost at the limit of how much my willpower can bear. The silver-robed Luo Feng stood up, rumbling, just a mere rising. The power caused the surrounding space to quake and rumble within the star tower. A strong soul foundation, an ultimate-level willpower to barely manage such a terrifying physical body. The burden on the one has all exceeded 90%. Although the perfect divine body and the world life form had comparable energy reserves, their strength was much different. The burden on the mind has been over 90%. It's too tiring. It's usually better to let this world life form sleep. Luo Feng's mind moved, and the silver-robed Luo Feng immediately sat cross-legged. The silver-robed Luo Feng slowly fell into a deep sleep. His breathing still continued, continuously setting off storms. His fluctuations in consciousness were already weak. In a state of slumber, the burden on the mind is faint. I usually act outside. It's better to get a few weaker clones. Luo Feng's mind moved. The silver-robed Luo Feng sitting cross-legged immediately flew out with 3 silver rays of light, coalescing 3 clones each. Each clone, roughly 1,000th of a world life form's energy reserves. It's also much stronger than my world life form when I was in the Chaos Realm. Luo Feng was satisfied. From the Chaos Realm to God King, the height of the divine body is raised 100 times. The God power qualitatively transformed 100 times. From an energy perspective, that's hundreds of millions of times the difference. The current one clone was much more powerful than the world life form that was condensed at all costs during the Chaos Realm. A clone should be considered invincible in the first-level God King. Luo Feng thought, and with this one clone of mine, I'm still able to exquisitely perform many moves. If I go all out, I should be invincible, even higher than the normal first-level God King. Luo Feng had a judgment. The so-called invincible first-level God King was a relatively broad concept, referring to many methods such as life-saving, attacking, and self-defense that fully reached the second-level God King category. Different invincible first-level God Kings also had their own specialties, like Jiayin God King, who practiced both the Infinity and Karma Great Tao. Her head-on combat was far inferior to Luo Feng at the moment, but she was too much better than Luo Feng in terms of tending to good fortune and avoiding harm. First-level God King defeated second-level God King. Second-level God King defeated ultimate-level God King. It's unheard of in the origin continent. But the inheritance of the Treasureland infinite space is documented. It's theoretically possible. Luo Feng understood this. It was only theoretically possible. Like the perfect great inheritance, wanting to get started was all theoretically possible. According to the world life form records, in the first-level God King, the most perfect physical body that can theoretically be attained is the 24-phase form. This is my next goal. But it can be put aside for now. The core of the future is the Great Tao of Destruction origin. Luo Feng thought. The 24-phase form, which was also presented in the complete Great Tao of Life origin, was the 24 claws. Each claw was as much as a phase of the Great Tao of Life origin. Each phase was a combination of 6 branches of each other, more complex and mysterious than the 10 directions world form. To realize all 24 phases, the difficulty was unimaginable. Normally, when one reached such a deep level of understanding of the 6 branches, one might only be able to comprehend a few of the phases, and they might already have their branches completely fused and crossed over into the second-level God King. The world life form, for a long time, was my strongest physical body. I need to better utilize my physical body strength now. In terms of fighting and killing, the Great Tao of Destruction origin was naturally good at it. Luo Feng then quietly sensed his own internal space. This was a wider space after the evolution of chaos space. With Luo Feng's foundation, the internal space was naturally thicker and wider. Other God Kings generally open up their internal space into a universe. I am more suited to open up my internal space as an origin world. Luo Feng thought, at least the prototype of an origin world. On the one hand, it was because the requirements of the special great inheritance world life form was to open up an internal world, and the so-called world ultimate goal was the origin world. On the other hand, Luo Feng's heart melted the supreme rules and had observed the entirety of the origin world of the entire origin continent. Open. A thought rose. The miniature universe far away from home had been gathering divine energy to teleport over. There was an upper limit to the amount of energy a miniature universe could withstand. But the energy Luo Feng needed to cultivate, the supreme rules didn't limit it. This was true for any living being. As long as you could utilize it, feel free to use it. Rumble in the inner space. Endless energy gathered at the core and began to gather a small land mass that completely imitating the appearance of the origin continent. Only it was a micro version. 99% of the energy gathered here. After that was the wider region of void, the same 3,000 micro-universes that were birthed in the region of void. The original endless world power of the world life form was also integrated into this world, causing this world to evolve naturally. The origin continent evolved to be thicker, and even began to have flowers, plants, and trees bred to appear. The position of the 3,000 micro-universes was also naturally adjusted, and vitality began to appear in the interior as well. The operating rules of the micro-origin world in the entire body was precisely the 6 branches of life that Luo Feng had comprehended, and the vitality within this world was naturally dense. It's just a start. Luo Feng revealed a smile. After the inner world stabilized, Luo Feng relied on the world reflection. The reflection range was suddenly much more massive than in the past. This range. Luo Feng was also surprised. In the past, when the inner world reflected the outside world, the reflection range was about 3 chaos states. Now with a strong physical body, the inner world was more expansive and more majestic. The reflection range climbed to 16 chaos states. Under normal circumstances, it was very difficult to expand the range of the world's reflection. Even if the underlying energy was strengthened by a lot, the reflection range might only expand by a tiny bit. 16 chaos states. Even though Luo Feng was in Huyang City, everything in the 16 chaos states, as fine as a particle of dust, was under Luo Feng's observation. The many strange beasts and 12 chaos realms in such a vast range, each and every one of them were unnoticeable under Luo Feng's observation. I am the world. Everything, nothing to hide. Silver-robed Luo Feng stood above Huyang City. He himself brought with him the laws of the inner world operations, and in the vicinity of where he was, the supreme rules all temporarily retreated. All sorts of energies in the surroundings, different layers of space and time, even karma entanglement, everything was under Luo Feng's observation. With the Tian Kuan Kingdom Lord, it's finally close. Luo Feng revealed a smile. Mount Polu, inside Zhang Yunji's cave. Yungu, is there something going on between you and Qingyan? Zhang Yunji's father summoned a contact. What's wrong? Zhang Yungu inquired suspiciously. Did something happen? Qingyan took back the right to use the Purple Cloud Palace within Xiangjie City. Our family chamber of commerce was forced to migrate out, and the Xiangjie City is now rumored that you and Qingyan may have separated. Qingyan hasn't denied it either. Father Zhang eagerly said, all of our business of the Chamber of Commerce in Xiangjie City has greatly declined. Originally, Zhang Yungu was in charge of some of the business of the family Chamber of Commerce before he got to know Ma Yu Qingyan. He took back the right to use the Purple Cloud Palace? Zhang Yungu was silent. What happened to the two of you? Zhang's father pressed. We separated a long time ago. Zhang Yungu didn't hide it anymore. How could you separate? Zhang's father was shocked and angry. Why can't it be? As cultivators, if one wants to be together, one can be together, and if one wants to separate, one can separate. Do I have to tell you, father? Zhang Yungu said, moreover, these days, I only want to cultivate in Mount Polu wholeheartedly. You. Father Zhang was furious. Since his daughter and Ma Yu Qingyan were together, his status within the family had greatly increased, and the business of the family chamber of commerce that he was responsible for had also improved overall. I have made up my mind, Zhang Yungu said. Father Zhang was helpless. Ever since his daughter had cultivated into an eternal true god, it had been difficult for him to control his daughter. All right, then you must seize the opportunity of Mount Polu and cultivate well. Father Zhang could only say this. I certainly understand. Zhang Yungu responded and ended up the transmission.